In 1544, Sebastian Münster published this map, which is not only nice to look at, but it's also important. This map is super important because it shows as one of the first maps the discoveries of Magellan. Magellan sailed around South America through the Strait of Magellan, here called the Stretto Magellani, to find the Pacific Ocean. One of the things that he found were what is called here the Insulae Infortunate, meaning the unfortunate islands, because, you are sailing all this time and you finally find land, and then it turns out that these islands are completely useless, devoid of food, and you have to sail on. The map also displays the classical guesswork of Europeans as to what the population of South America was like. One label says Regio Gigantum, which means reign of giants, and the other one Cannibali, cannibals. As so often with old maps, land masses are quite distorted. This map is no different. The west of South America is way too far stretched out to the west. But, considering that they really only had this one voyage by Magellan to go by in order to draw this map, I guess we can give them a pass. At this point, Europeans knew the Caribbean quite well. Therefore, you have a lot of labels here: Cuba, Jamaica, Hispaniola. You also have Yucatan as an island, which should by all means be a peninsula. Maybe just not known at the time, or maybe just an error in the map making. We see the Spanish flag on one of the islands. Indeed, back then the Spanish and Portuguese had already agreed on this demarcation line, which basically granted Portugal all non-European lands east of that line and Spain all non-European lands west of that line, which will end up giving Spain almost everything in America, except one tiny bit in South America, which will turn out to be Brazil, which Portugal got. That's why Brazil nowadays speaks Portuguese. Finally, we made it to North America. We see here Terra Florida, the label, and we see that the ocean comes down from the north to cut through America. Then we see two interesting labels, Francisca and C. Britonum, indeed referencing France and Britain, meaning Spain and Portugal were not the only players in the game. France and Britain had also sent first explorers to America. Europe and Africa are only briefly mentioned. There is Hibernia, which is Ireland. Interestingly, Hibernia is the Roman name for Ireland. The islands between Europe and America are much more important for this map, but let's first go to Asia. We have here the island of Zipanri, and Zipanri is Japan. Zipanri is derived from Rubenguo, which is Chinese for Japan. So they basically used the knowledge that Marco Polo had given them so many years ago. The placement of Japan is completely incorrect, and this is because they basically didn't know. They were just guessing that this island is there. Now, it's not completely incorrect to place it somewhere there, but it's way too close to America. The rest of Asia is labeled India Superior, and that is because probably Asia wasn't really the term used for far away Asia, and Asia was probably more used for nearby Asia, so like Asia Minor, the Roman province, which nowadays is Turkey. So get used to India for these regions in this old map. Back to the islands between Europe and America, there are the Insulae Hesperidum shown here, and those are very important because they were the reference point for the demarcation line between Spain and Portugal. And by the time of this map, it was already clear that this original goal of keeping Portugal away from America hadn't really worked because South America accidentally had stretched out way too far to the east, is shown here on this map. You see that if you just draw a line from west of the Hesperides downwards, you already end up in South America. That is not completely correct, but it's kind of a nice visual hint. Although the map is of course very distorted, the overall concept is extremely nice. You have the first depiction of the Pacific Ocean, you have a complete map, although of course incomplete, of America, South and North. You have certain features that are important. You have the clear distinction between the Spanish territories and the Portuguese territories by, having the flag. You have this beautiful ship, which is the Victoria, which is the only ship of the Magellan expedition that came back in order to, tell everybody about the Pacific Ocean. So the map is actually really nice in the overall context and concepts that it displays. Anyways, I hope you liked the tour through this map. I personally think it is amazing, and I would like to explore more of Sebastian Münster's work. I'll probably draw a couple of more maps from him in the future. Let me know what you think. Do you have any favorite region of yours that you would like to draw? Maybe we find something that Sebastian Münster drew that we can recover here. Anyways, see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.